Yeah, so back to the topic that we started with,
Yeah.
total evolution of the body-mind system.
Oh.
One of them that you just described to us was the ability to heal. Heal
Right.
others, heal your animals, have that healing
Right.
potential
Or
realized.
talk with the weather. Or, people use it to find parking places all the time.
Yeah.
Why not just do that? Start there. The whole idea of developing and of becoming, I'm not sure how to describe it, more in tune with everything so that you're communicating with everything all the time. Pretty soon, stuff starts to communicate back.
Inside communication and external.
Yes.
You've got to have the inner communication, right?
Yeah, you have to know who you are and what you want. In fact, when you mentioned ethics, that's a big thing for me.
And that's all about, in yoga, finding yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exactly what it is. When I was younger, I had all these rules, they came from the Catholic Church, and the nuns, and my parents, and, whatever, society. And I got out there in the world and just went wild, like, woohoo, I'm having a good time. And little by little, I came to my own ethics. Nope, I'm not doing that. That's not me. Nope, I don't like that. I'm not going to get engaged or involved in that kind of activity anymore. Nope, I'm not doing such and such. And you come to this place where you own it, and then it's unassailable.
Did you make those decisions based on how things affected you, or how it affected other people, or both?
Both. Sometimes, especially with my kids, when I let my kids go live with their dad, I was thinking they were only going to be gone a year. And I was like, okay, I just need to finish growing up. I'm going to wreck these children if I don't, because I'm not grown up. And I didn't really know what that was. I didn't really know what being grown up was about. And you don't when you're not grown up. You don't know.
You just recognized that you needed
Yes.
your own time or something. You needed
Right. It's
needed something
undefinable
separate
thing.
from the kids and
Yes. And
those responsibilities.
you can't even explain what it is you're going after because you don't know.
Yeah.
So, there was quite a bit of judgment on the part of the family. What are you doing? And I'm like, look, we have shared custody. He lives across the street. It'll be okay. It's only for a year. I just need a year. I cannot keep working full-time and raising 4 children and going to school full-time. I can't do it. And so it turned out, I didn't know about the laws of residency.
Yeah.
So after a year, I wasn't done with school. And so it dragged on for 2 years. And then when I was like, okay, finally back in school, that was when the whole thing, the crap hit the fan. And I realized when the lawsuit came in that he was pursuing full physical custody and that they had, quote, established residency. So I couldn't get him back. So then I was like, and I was really upset with that. But then as time went on and I saw the effect on them, that was really a huge learning step because I ended up deciding somewhere in that time frame after crying my eyes out for months that I was going to learn to project love, that I was going to learn to hold this space of love that they could step into at any minute and just be totally surrounded.
Did you do that based on some kind of a spiritual awakening you had at that point, or was that just your recognition that children needed love? That was just a regular, as opposed to spiritual
It
recognition.
was not about kundalini. It was totally about a mother witnessing, her children not doing well and not being able to get them back. And so I thought, and I had said to him when we left the courtroom, fine, you have their bodies, I'm going to have their hearts. And so then later on I thought, how are you going to do that? How are you going to have their hearts? And that began my first efforts to project love. And
that was the impetus, but it did lead you into, that's an evolutionary process.
That's right.
when you learn to go there, right?
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Yeah. So we have I think there's what do you call that? Tree of life. The tree of life. That whole thing really is misunderstood. And so it becomes important to realize that kundalini is just the start of this flowing energy through the body. And I could say more about it, but I don't want to go there right now. It becomes, that energy flowing through becomes the source of your immortality. You have to be able to maintain your individual energy, body, mind system, and let the full energy of the source material flow through you constantly, renewing you constantly. So, go ahead.
Well, most people just think about terms of coping with this life. You're talking about, eternity. So why would anybody want to aim for eternity rather than just trying to get through this life as well as possible?
Well, I don't think people want to get to eternity until you come to bliss.
Okay. A few minutes ago you said, you were trying to be an adult, but you weren't even sure what you were aiming for.
Yeah.
And for most people that applies to spirituality too.
Yeah,
you're trying to be on a spiritual path, but you don't even really know what you're aiming for.
Very true,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
But is it something that's built into all of us in all things, the need to grow?
Yes, it is.
And then you recognize that somewhere deep inside.
Yes, and I think that's why Kundalini happened the way it did. It isn't something that you can consciously get there by creating certain conditions, but you can also, because I'm a perfect example of getting there without having any
intention or
no knowledge.
Conscious awareness of
yeah.
Right.
If you create the conditions for that energy to flow through you without obstruction for a split second, it doesn't say, well, is she ready? Well, should we do this? So.
Okay.
Could you talk about what Kundalini actually is? I mean, a lot of people don't even know that term, I think.
I think the best way to put it is it's the awakening of consciousness. It's an awakening to the fact that the whole reality system and everything in it is made of conscious energy. And so when that consciousness awakens, there's no limits to consciousness, there's no blocks to consciousness, there's no limitations in terms of, like all the stuff that we learn just being in the reality system. There's no time, there's no nothing, except consciousness.
Most people think consciousness is what you have when you wake up in the morning. I think you're talking about something more than that.
Okay. Well, I think we'd have to go to the whole, what I'm going to call the staging. You start with source. Source is absolutely silent and still, but it's supremely blissful and aware. When you step into that, this world disappears. There's no physical world. There's no you. There's no individual you. You just become one with this amazing, oh my God, you can't even describe it, this material, this light. And that light just holds this one thought, and that one thought is, I am. And that's it. And that's like the foundation stone for all existence. The rock says, I am. The cow says, I am. The chair, the table, the house, everything. So, I think that source material is absolutely silent, absolutely unmoving and still, and when you're in it, you're paralyzed. You don't move either. You're paralyzed with bliss. And you are so, I'm going to use the word satisfied. That's a piddly word. But there's this depth of completion that so completely fills you, you have no desire to go anywhere, do anything. You don't have any desire to, you don't exist, and you don't want to exist anywhere except in this I am. So that's the basic source material. Yeah.
Are there levels of consciousness between us who wake up and think, I'm conscious now, and getting to that source? There must be something in between that's happening.
Yeah, there is. I've noticed 4 different levels. There's a source. When that source light starts to move, it changes characteristics. So that source stuff is really what's called mind space. Space is the awareness property of, or the location aspect of mind, and mind is the awareness property of space. So you have space, mind. They're 2 sides of a coin. And then you have consciousness energy. When that starts to move, mind and space begins to transform. It evolves, actually, and it becomes more than just mind and space. It becomes conscious energy. And the energy is the movement and the power of consciousness. And, it's an amazing power. It's unlimited. And then that becomes, particles, and then particles become patterns, and then the pattern, you and I are patterns. So, and that's kind of a quick thing. You have to really read Volume 2 in order to...
Volume 2
of Consciousness and Energy, in order to get the whole, or Volume 3. I think I've explained it even a little more clearly in Volume 3.